This is the Microcosm by Hologram. And this pedal is really cool. Reason being is because I've never really played with a pedal like this. The reason I like this pedal a lot is because I can't seem to figure it out, and that's a good thing. It just has so many possibilities, and it's kind of so unpredictable that it feels like I'm playing with an alien pedal. Like some aliens came down and they decided, hey, here's this pedal, play with it, enjoy. So the way the Microcosm breaks down is that it has 4 different modules, and it also has a looper. But these 4 modules are what are really cool. You have your micro loop, your glitch, granules, and multi-delay. Those are 4 different styles of effects that the Microcosm has built in. Within those 4 modules, you have 3 different sort of like categories and different styles of effects. So you've got mosaic, sequence, glide. Under micro loop, you have glitch that has blocks, interrupt, arpeggiator. Granules has a haze, tunnel, and a strum. And multi-delay has a pattern and a warp. Now, all of these things don't mean much to me, and that's, again, part of the charm about this. So what you were just hearing was the haze function. And within that haze function, if I turn this little knob, you'll see that I have different presets, and they all sound slightly different. So if I play that same thing on the third one. And on the fourth one. It's a very beautiful, lush sort of cinematic sound that this pedal does. And this is where it gets interesting. You see all these kind of controls and you kind of assume like, oh, I can just tweak this to my liking however I want. But the reality is that this thing is doing something a little bit organic within its circuitry. Like you can't really control it to the full kind of dimension that you might want to. So this works really well for like ambient sort of stuff because it's always going to be a little bit different every time. And this knob right here, the activity knob, even in the manual, they kind of say like, hey, we can't really define what the activity knob does. And they just kind of say, trust us. We made it so that the more you play with this knob, the kind of crazier or less crazy the effect is going to get. So if I go all the way to the left, it's a little bit more predictable. I mean, barely, but you kind of get a more defined sort of effect. And if I go all the way to the right with the activity knob, it gets a little bit more chaotic, a little bit further away. A little bit more ambient, not as well defined. Now, these other knobs also actually do something. The shape, I'm going to save for later because that works a little bit more obviously on other effects in this one. But the filter, for example, is a good one that I could just show off. You'll see that as I turn the filter, it's a low pass filter there. So you're only going to get your low frequencies passing through. And as I open it, you're going to get more of those high frequencies. It's still pretty dark overall, even with the filter all the way open. But that's kind of like the sound of this effect. Mix works how you'd expect it. It lets you go all the way if you only want to hear the effect. And if I go all the way to the left, I only get guitar, obviously. So if you have a nice middle blend, you get to hear a little bit of both. This kind of infinity thing that you're hearing here is the repeats. If I go all the way, this will never end. And just goes on forever. Which is, again, very cinematic. I feel like I'm watching a movie right now. There's a very dramatic dream sequence happening. It's kind of cool. Generally, I think keeping it at around 25% is pretty good if you're actually trying to play something. Space is our kind of how big our space is, kind of self-explanatory. So if I just play a little chord right here, that's going to feel like a big, huge space. If I go all the way to the left, a little bit smaller, the effects are a little bit more instant. So again, generally in the middle, you're going to get that loop level we are not playing with right now because we don't have any loops right now. The time knob over here is a little bit confusing. You'll see this is kind of like your tempo right here. If I go all the way to the right, tempo is going faster. All the way to the left, tempo is going slower. But you can also change the subdivisions if you do already have a tempo, meaning how quickly it's going to repeat based on quarter notes, whole notes, etc., etc. You can also tap tempo. Let's check out the different effects here. The first one that we have is the mosaic. So something really cool about this pedal is what I'm noticing as I play with it more. The pedal reacts differently based on the intensity of your playing. You can see that reflected in the lights. It's more aggressive if I play harder, and so on and so forth. So this effect is maybe a good time to show off the shape function. If I go all the way to the left, I have more of a square wave, so I'm going to get an on-off sort of effect. Now if I change that to, for example, be more of a sawtooth. So as you can see, the shape changes based on where I'm at. So there's certain effects here. It seems like this pedal breaks down into two kind of separate categories. You have your very ambient, sort of unpredictable effects, and then in some of these, like the blocks within the glitch module, you get something a little bit more predictable, a little bit more rhythmic, and so you're able to start using it as more of a tool to kind of build some really unique rhythms. So when you get into the ARP world of this whole thing, this is where it gets really fun because you can really start just kind of jamming with yourself. And this is where I talk about where this feels like just kind of like an alien pedal because it's a little bit unpredictable. You can mess around with the activity knob and you're going to realize like, whoa, I don't know where this thing is going. So that same riff on the same exact preset, just moving the activity knob, sounds like this. And then if I wanted to, I could just let it repeat forever, make that space bigger. And there you can really hear how crazy it can get. And so there's some effects here that I really like just having the mix all the way. They're being used as more of like an ambient instrument rather than like something, a guitar effect. Mess with the shape a little bit, you'll get kind of like, you'll lose the strumminess of the guitar and you just purely get this sort of like ambient pad. Which is really cool. So overall, this pedal just has a lot to explore sonically. And if you're looking for some new inspiration, this is definitely a cool pedal to check out.